Hello and welcome to another Mr. Munner's Langlit video. Today, we're going to be looking at the structure of your individual oral, ensuring that we are structuring the presentation so that it meets the requirements of the task, is expressive and fluent in the way that explores the global issue, and meets the assessment criteria for the task. So we're going to start by looking at a general structure. We can consider the individual oral to be a presentation of two halves. You're expected to explore what each of the literary and non-literary texts say about the global issue, giving each text/work equal weighting. For each of these halves, we need to look at the extract and the wider text, that is the collection, the novel, the play, or the campaign, the extract is drawn from. We can consider these two halves to be in addition to the introduction and also the conclusion. So here, I've got a general map for what this should all look like. So you should provide an introduction that goes for about a minute. You should use your pre-prepared student outline form to list the details required. This should provide a basic outline of your issue and provide a broad map for what you will argue. The most important parts are establishing your platform for the discussion through defining your global issue, introducing the texts, outlining the context, and establishing a clear thesis. This should be brief, reasonably broad, and should go for about a minute. The second part is your exploration of the literary texts. That should take up about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. You should use 4 of your prepared dot points here. The first 2 minutes and 10 seconds should discuss the extract. That is, how the author explores the global issue through the language in the extract. And the second 2 minutes and 10 seconds discusses the wider text. That's how the text more broadly discusses the global issue. The second half of your oral looks at the non-literary body of work. This should last about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. It is important that the two halves are balanced because this is crucial in your assessment criteria. You should use 5 of your prepared dot points here and in 2 minutes and 10 seconds discuss the extract and how the author explores meaning through the language in the extract. And then for the latter 2 minutes and 10 seconds, discuss the wider text and how the author uses language there. The last 15 to 30 seconds should be your conclusion, and that's where we are exploring what we are left with as readers of both texts and the works in terms of the global issue. What I want to do now is have a look at how we can focus our presentation through structuring our body. As I said, it happens in two halves. The analysis of the literary text, which includes the zoom in and the zoom out, the zoom in being the focus on the extract, the zoom out being the analysis of the broader text. And then the same structure and process occurs around analysis of the non-literary text. We have a zoom in, the extract, and then a zoom out on the broader work. In both cases, or in all cases, we are focusing on how language and the author's choices create that meaning with respect to the global issue. We should always be focusing on language, always focusing on the author's choices and how those choices and language leads to the construction of meaning. But at the basis of everything, we need to be looking at those author's choices. So let's start by looking at the assessment criteria. If you'd like to unpack the assessment criteria more thoroughly, there's another video that will be linked at the end of this video. So as you should know, you are assessed on 4 criteria. The first is criteria A, knowledge, understanding, and interpretation. If we pop down to the bottom here, your ability to perform highly depends on having an excellent knowledge and understanding of the extracts and of the work's text, and having a persuasive interpretation of their implications in relation to the global issue. You also should make references to the extracts and works that are well chosen and that effectively support the candidate's ideas. Criterion B is looking at analysis and evaluation. In in performing highly in criterion B, your analysis and evaluation of the extracts of the works should be relevant and insightful. There should be a thorough and nuanced understanding of how authorial choices are used to present the global issue. Criterion C focuses on your organisation. In order to perform highly here, you need to maintain a clear and sustained focus on the task. The treatment of the extracts and the works should be well balanced, as I said earlier, and the development of your ideas should be logical and convincing and connected in a cogent manner. And lastly, there should be the focus on language as criterion D. That is, your language should be clear, accurate, and varied. Occasional areas should not hinder communication. Vocab and syntax are varied and create effect. And your elements of style, for example, registered tone and rhetorical devices, are appropriate to the task and enhance the oral. Now we're going to look at how we can maximize our structure in order to meet these assessment criteria. So your body, the body of your presentation, which we've split into 4 parts, should be structured almost identically in each of these parts. You should always start with an opening statement. Your opening statement should introduce what the author of the literary texts says about the global issue. In order to perform highly in this section, your opening statement should have the following qualities. Your development of ideas should be logical and convincing. Your ideas should be connected in a cogent manner. To do this, you should be making a claim about the message the author makes about the global issue. This should be a broad statement that provides a platform for the discussion you will have in your zoom in and your zoom out. Your second section should be your zoom in. That's where you analyzed your extracts. So here, you should be exploring and evaluating how the global issue is established in the extract through the choices, that is, the language, the devices, and the strategies that the author makes. You should have well-chosen references to the extracts that effectively support your ideas. Your analysis and evaluation should be relevant and insightful. There should be a thorough and nuanced understanding of how the authorial choices are used to present the global issue, and your ideas should be made in a cohesive manner. This section should also demonstrate that you have a strong knowledge and understanding of the extracts and of the works and text more broadly. We then shift from our zoom in into our zoom out. But before we do that, I want to talk about how we can analyze the extract. You must choose extracts that represent how meaning with respect to the global issue is constructed by the author. You should identify specific authorial choices that explore how meaning is constructed. You should analyze those authorial choices. How do those authorial choices help the author to explore the global issue? You should consider how the meaning connects to the wider text and the overarching thesis, and you should show your understanding and knowledge of the passage/text through this process. You must make sure that you are signposting to help you locate meaning. Signposting just means that you're actually telling your assessor exactly what you're doing and where you are in a certain point. It's using words such as in the extract, in the wider text, secondly, firstly, etc., that help to just locate where you are in your presentation. You also must be explicit about your choice of device. The more explicit you are, the closer your analysis is going to be, and the more sophisticated you will be. Let's look at how we can structure our analysis through a sample. So this is an example of a sample body paragraph. This is from the text Black Mirror. This is looking at the episode Nosedive. And we have 3 sentences, or we have 3 sections here. Brooker's use of mise-en-scène illustrates the parasocial nature of social media. and the way such media leads to human detachment. We can see here that we are identifying a specific authorial choice and then making a claim about the overarching message the author is making about the global issue. In this case, that Brooker is commenting on the parasocial tendencies of social media and the way such media leads to human detachment. Ultimately, we're making a broad comment about what the author is saying and its connection to the global issue. We then spend the rest of the paragraph focusing on specific authorial choices and looking at how those authorial choices create meaning and making explicit connections to the global issue. Everything we discuss and all the meaning we explore should all link back to the global issue. But part of it is going to be explicit connections and other parts of it is going to be more nuanced. Let's look at our example here too. Brooker positions each of the characters facing the same direction. This is drawing from a specific example in the extract and identifying specifically what Brooker is doing. In this case, it's linking in to that mise-en-scène that is referenced in the topic sentence. We then look at how and why that choice creates the meaning and what exactly is being said. This is illustrated through how social media strips the tendency for social interaction. The characters are depicted being unable to physically communicate because they are so engrossed in their device and thus socially distant. We can see that this is explaining how Brooker is able to construct the meaning through the positioning of the characters. That means that they're physically unable to communicate because they're all facing in the same direction. You can't talk to someone when you're facing in the same direction. And then we make an explicit connection to the global issue. That is, that this parallels the way that social media often removes opportunities for authentic interactions, replacing organic moments of communication that are central to the maintenance of the human connection. This is making a connection to the global issue more broadly and what it says about our world as readers. You'll notice here that this structure parallels the cause and effect video that I've uploaded previously. And if you want to dive deeper into how these sentences are made up, you might want to look at that video. Now let's move into this third paragraph where it fleshes this idea out even further. The character's hunched over posture, that is looking at acting, combined with their melancholic focus, again looking at acting through facial expressions solely on their phone, highlights, then we have how these devices create meaning or how these conventions create meaning. So they highlight the alienating tendency of social media engagement, illustrating how social media requires a high level of attention, yet offers little emotional sustenance in return. We then moved into an explicit connection to the global issue. Hopefully you can see how the purple section here doesn't necessarily explicitly relate to the global issue, but it does so in a nuanced way. Whereas this blue sentence here actually is explicit in its connection to the global issue. It says that Brooker doesn't necessarily maintain that social technology makes us less human, but could represent a link in the erasure of essential social human habits. This is making an explicit connection about how Brooker's commentary relates to our lives as readers in the contemporary world. So you should be structuring your analysis and essentially just completing cycles of analysis like this. You start with your topic sentence for this section, and by section, I'm talking about looking at your zoom in. So you make a claim about what the author is saying about the global issue, and then you're exploring how each of the specific authorial choices support that idea, explore meaning, and connect to the global issue. Let's look at a second example. This is from The Great Gatsby. Again, in our topic sentence, we're explicitly referencing an authorial choice, connecting into the topic sentence, that makes a claim about the overarching message the author is making. Here it is in one. The final sentence of the extract employs a metaphor that underscores the fatalistic and ultimately fraudulent nature of social class. You can see in those first few words there that I've signposted where my example is coming from and what I'm actually analysing. In this case, it's the extract, but specifically the final sentence. And then in that second part, after the word metaphor, we have our idea or our claim. That is, that the extract underscores the fatalistic and ultimately fraudulent nature of social class. We are then spending the next two examples exploring how specific phrases or conventions are used to support and underscore that idea. In this case, at number 2, the phrase born back ceaselessly underscores this idea that no matter how much energy Gatsby expends beating on, he is inevitably dragged backwards by his origins. The class system is presented as a deterministic, unforgiving force that ensures class is not a matter of money, but of lineage and accepted history. That is specifically entrenched in the text itself and explored in this extract. We then move into an explicit reference to the global issue. That is, that this parallels the ways that social class is rooted in prejudice and tradition within contemporary society. You might be well served here to explore this idea more and expand upon that idea before you move into your next idea or your next analysis of an authorial choice. And that could be helpful in making sure that you have that balance and that you're able to draw sophisticated analysis of the global issue. Let's look at number 3. Similarly, the symbolism of the green light highlights both the dehumanizing and elusive nature of social class entrenched within the American dream. I would argue that this doesn't just reference a specific authorial choice, but it actually relates to an explicit connection to the global issue. In this case, the global issue is going to be the American dream and its dehumanizing nature. This idea is not just relevant to The Great Gatsby, but is more broad than that. And it actually relates to how it exists within our lives in the contemporary world. The second half of this paragraph or this section then talks about Gatsby himself. In this case, it's Gatsby's belief. So despite Gatsby's belief in the green light and his obsession with pursuing it, the light ultimately eludes him, demonstrating that the barriers of social class are not economic, but rather cultural and inherent. We are being explicit about Gatsby and how Gatsby connects to the global issue, but this is still analysis that is entrenched in the text itself and the extract itself. We would then move out to looking at the wider text and analysing how the wider text, the collection, creates meaning. Again, we need to show a cohesive and nuanced understanding of the broader text. We should be making clear claims about the author's message regarding the global issue and how it appears in the text more broadly. We should be making explicit reference to authorial choices and explaining how these choices construct meaning relating to the global issue. And your discussion should build on your analysis of the extract. So what should we do to make sure that we're making effective connections to the wider text? We should identify how your analysis of the extracts intersects with the text overall. How does the extract speak for the wider text? And how does the wider text say other things, other unique things that enable the author to explore the global issue in different ways? How can you deepen your exploration of the global issue through analysis of the wider text? That is, what is a complementary idea maybe that is established through a different authorial choice? Or what is a complementary idea that's a bit different, that enables you to go in a slightly different direction? Hopefully, you're able to explain how looking at the text more broadly deepens your discussion of the global issue overall. You must choose quotes that represent how meaning with respect to the global issue is constructed by the author. You must analyse those those quotes, and also specific authorial choices that explore how meaning is constructed by the author. How do those authorial choices construct meaning? Consider making connections back to the extract, other parts of the text, and your overarching thesis. And of course, you should be showing your understanding and knowledge of the passage and text through this process. We then move on to our link. When we complete our link, we're just consolidating our discussion. We're just drawing further connections to analysis of the extract and the wider text, but we're not necessarily saying anything new. The important part about the link here is that we're linking into our analysis of our non-literary text, but this does not necessitate that we need to compare the texts. And that's what we have. We then move on and we do the second half. We complete the exact same steps, but for the non-literary work. So in this case, you would be looking at your non-literary extract and then the non-literary work collection as a whole. Still doing your zoom in and then doing your zoom out. The importance here is that you're maintaining your structure. You're establishing a claim at the top of your section. You're then looking at specific authorial choices and how specific authorial choices within the extract create meaning, followed by how explicit authorial choices within your wider text creates meaning. Hopefully this was helpful. I have other videos that I'll link in the description. Thank you for watching.